Good evening, councillors and those attending via Zoom. We'll start, as usual, with our moment of reflection, which is led today by Reverend David Uffendall of St Andrew's, Farnham, which is the parish church in Farnham, and who I know well. So it's nice to finish off with a friendly face. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, can I say good evening and thank you so much for your invitation to lead prayers this evening. It's a real privilege to serve you in this way. As we come towards the end of our mayoral year and the start of the next, we're very conscious of beginnings and endings, endings and beginnings, change and transition, challenge and opportunity, potential and possibility. All of these, of course, are perfectly normal, but who saw COVID coming and the radically moving goalposts in such a way that lockdown and social distancing, furlough, mask wearing and PPE would become part of our everyday vocabulary and our everyday concern. Mercifully, of course, vaccine and easing are now on the way, rolling out to bring relief and more certain hope. And yet still, in the world of politics and economics and government, there is much uncertainty still, and an apparent desire for continuity, security, and building on firm foundations, although we don't know quite what the new normal will look like and feel like and be like yet. The psalm set for today says this: Lord, you've examined me and you know me. You know everything I do. From far away, you understand all my thoughts. You see me whether I'm working or resting. You know all my actions. Even before I speak, you already know what I will say. You are all around me on every side. You protect me with your power. Your knowledge of me is too deep. It is beyond my understanding. Where could I go to escape from you? If I flew away beyond the east or lived in the farthest place in the west, you would be there to lead me. You would be there to help me. At such a time as this, we need all the help we can get from God, from one another, each and every day. And so here's a prayer. Almighty God, we thank you for the world that you've made and for our part in its turning day by day. We pray for those in authority, for justice, truth, and integrity in all their dealings, and for your plan and purpose to be made known in us and through us in deliberation and decision. We remember those who are in special need in the health service and in education, those who have no work, those who have no home, and those for whom family and relationship are a daily struggle. Please help each of us in our small corner of your world to be encouraged to make small differences, to be confident in making changes, and to be hopeful always in making better plans for a better future. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We gather up all our prayers in the words that Jesus himself taught us as we say together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I wish you well in your deliberations this evening, and I will see you next time.
Thank you, David. That was very nice. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting, though you're welcome to. Thank you very much. Right. Members and the public, I welcome you to the annual council meeting. Members are supported this evening by the Chief Executive, Tom Horwood, Strategic Directors, Graham Clark and Annie Wrighton, the Head of Policy and Governance, Robin Taylor, the Borough Solicitor, Daniel Bainbridge, and the Democratic Services Manager. Members, could you please use the hand raise feature in Zoom to indicate that you wish to speak? If you lose your connection, please rejoin as quickly as possible. If the live stream to YouTube fails, we will pause proceedings to enable it to be re-established. Members, I intend to take the votes this evening by verbal assent. So when the time comes, please make it clear if you wish to object or abstain. Apologies for absence. Robin?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've received apologies from Councillors David Else and Jenny Else.
Thank you. Now it is Mayor's announcements, the last time I've got a chance to have a unfettered access to the microphone. This has been a very strange year, as you can imagine, but I've been able to be involved in an issue that's very close to my heart. That is promoting equality, diversity and inclusion. In the last most extraordinary year, the pandemic has really highlighted equality and is still profoundly present in our society, particularly in terms of health, where people from Black and Asian communities and those economically disadvantaged have been the hardest hit. At the beginning of my mayoral year, I made a statement on Black Lives Matter, and I hoped Waverley would be able to put in place things to promote better practice in work and to work to remove any discrimination that may occur. Having attended the Council staff's corporate equality group, I can report that a great deal has happened during the past year. The group aims to foster not only equality and diversity, but also, more importantly, an inclusive culture. As one of the members said, equality is being asked to a party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. In response to the stimulus of Black Lives Matter, a race equality focus group was established to find out more about the experiences of Black and Asian colleagues and some of the findings made uncomfortable hearing. These included testimonies from staff who had experienced microaggressions in their daily life, and that sort of thing that people from white British backgrounds are often not aware of, or of the harm that it can do. Whilst we cannot place ourselves in another person's shoes, we can all learn to listen, respond to their experience, and learn to challenge those who perhaps inadvertently cause harm. Waverley has joined the Surrey Minority Ethnic Forum as an associate member, and as a result of this, have designed an active citizens programme based on their principles. This involves training for staff and councillors to enable them to support people who experience inappropriate behaviour. In addition, our refreshed corporate strategy now emphasises the value and worth of all residents, with opportunities for all, regardless of race, age, disability, religion, gender or sexual orientation, income or wealth, and promotes high quality public services which are accessible to all. Throughout the year, staff and councillors have come together to talk about their experiences and challenges during lockdown. And Waverley have put in place training which is still continuing. We have reviewed our recruitment policies to ensure that they are fair, and recently introduced anonymous shortlisting to avoid any unconscious bias. Some of you will know I have a particular interest in promoting a better understanding of different cultures and religions. And at the start of my year, I deliberately have decided not to have one chaplain, but several from all the different religions in Waverley and denominations of the Christian faith. and I would like to thank them all for their input. I hope this small action will help communicate a powerful message. I would like to think that at the end of my year, Waverley have achieved a great deal to integrate equality, diversity and inclusion into our thinking and working environment, and we will continue to improve on the progress we've made so far. On a lighter note, many of you will have been aware that I have been taking on the 100 plus 100 plus 100 challenge to raise money for my 3 charities. As you can imagine, it was incredibly difficult to choose just 3, as the pandemic has hit all charities extremely hard. In the end, I focused on 3 charities which help young parents and young people, all of whom are among the most affected by the pandemic. These are Waverley Home Start, which helps new parents cope with the stresses of bringing up a new addition to the family. 40 Degrees, a youth centre which supports young people by providing help in a safe and trusted environment. And the Sea Cadets, which help young people gain confidence and expand their horizons. All 3 of these are really worthy charities. I can report today, I have completed all 3 challenges. I've done all my 100s, that is 100 miles of walking, 100 lengths of a swimming pool, and 100 kilometres of static biking. And the last 2 of those I did in Waverley sports centres throughout the borough. I think a rest is now in order. I will continue to raise money for these charities by learning to ride a bike, a trike or a quike. And I have never been on a bike in my life before, so this will be a very interesting month. This continue until May the 25th. Thank you to all of you who've donated already, but please continue to donate and support these charities until then. Lastly, I must say thank you to all of those who have helped you this year and during my challenges. I would particularly like to thank the officers, especially Claire Marie Lamport, who helped me set up my Just Giving page and blog. Tom, Robin and Fiona, who have supported me as we sit here on our own in the council chamber. And Louise, who has kept me abreast of the diversity and inclusion work in Waverley. Lastly, and more importantly, I suppose, or most importantly, I would like to thank my family, who keep me grounded. There's nothing like a, oh, mum, to remind you of where you belong. And also really remind me what we're doing all this for. That's what local government is for, to help families like mine. And in particular, I'd like to say thank you to my husband and consort, Peter, who has been a rock during this very trying year and has been a chauffeur, a coach, a walker, and many other things. So thank you very much, Peter. Thank you. Right, I can now move on to the election of mayor for the next mayor for 2021-22. I now call for nominations for the election of mayor for the council year 2021-22.
Right.
Councillor Nicholson?
I should like to nominate Mr. John Rubini.
Is there a seconder?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would like to second that, please.
Are there any other nominations?
Ask Betty Nicholson to read his statement.
There are, sorry?
Not Betty Nicholson to read it. He has a statement.
All right, yeah. Peter, would you like to read a statement of support of your nomination?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One day recently, I was asked, what exactly is a mayor? A question I've never been asked before. And my answer was whatever the government decreed it to be, but went on to give more detail. I do think now that the role of a mayor is more in public thought, probably as a result of the relatively new city region mayors, whose works, as we know, are more in the public eye. And this localism moves as a common thread to borough and town mayors. Hopefully there will be local interest in our mayor making. And our candidate John Rubini is a local Surrey man, born and bred in the county, a supporter of Surrey Cricket Club, and like myself, a supporter of Woking FC, which, like our party, has had mixed results over recent years, but we are confident for the future. In fact, we know that a mayor has two distinct roles. One is a chairman of the council, and the other, essentially the people's side of public relations. Two very different qualities are needed for the role, and John is quite able to carry out both with ease. John served his apprenticeship in local engineering, but with the demise of that industry, joined the Surrey Police Force and has served in a number of roles, including civilian management, over a full working lifetime. He has served at the same time as a member of Whitley Parish Council, becoming chairman for a number of years. And then, after marrying Jackie and moved to Hazelmere, stood for Waverley and was a member of the Waverley Executive for 4 years. And he has been our current town mayor since 2019. So his life and work and outside has been committed to public service, including the major workload of manning the Hazelmere Help COVID telephone line for over a year, and has also driven the Hazelmere neighbourhood plan to its final referendum stage. Actually, Jackie, like John, has been a member of Hazelmere and also Waverley, and so she'll be a great practical support to him in his year's term. And I'll let you into a secret. John has been looking forward, despite his considerable work ethic, to a 2-week break between leaving Hazelmere and joining Waverley as a mayor. But due to events and Mr. Rees-Mogg will now have a 2-week double role. I suggest a letter of complaint be sent, but one thing I'm sure, there will be no complaints about John Rubini, and I commend him as your mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Gale, do you wish to make a statement as seconder?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to second Councillor Rubini for mayor for a number of reasons, really. I've known John for many years, firstly as our village policeman in Whitley, and then as a Whitley Parish Councillor and Chairman, and then on to Town Councillor and Waverley Councillor. Whatever he's been involved in, he's always fulfilled the roles with passion, commitment, and finding ways to make situations better for others, especially for youth services, and of course passing on his wealth of knowledge to people to help them protect their own homes and their property. When he was the village policeman, the younger members of the community regarded John more as a friend and a guiding hand. One lad even knocking on his door late at night to ask for help, rather than going home to his own father after being a bit naughty. He's always had time for people. He's willing to listen. He helps where he can. And I think these qualities make him an ideal person for mayor, and also as an ambassador for Waverley Borough Council. For all those reasons, I'm more than happy to second this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gale. There are no other nominations. Therefore, I hereby declare Councillor John Rubini as the new Mayor of Waverley. I now ask Councillor Rubini to read out the declaration of acceptance of office. We will then have a short adjournment while the chain of office is presented to the new Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, councillors. I, John Rubini, having been elected to the office of Mayor for the Borough of Waverley, hereby declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code as to the conduct which is expected of members of Waverley Borough Council in the performance of my functions in that office.
Thank you, Councillor Rubini. Mayor, oh, welcome, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. We will now adjourn for a short time to allow the chain to be handed over. Thank you.
I had to do that. My first action as mayor. Good evening, everybody, and I would like to thank you all, councillors, for actually electing me the mayor. It is an honour to represent Waverley across the borough for the next year. Councillor Penny Marriott, the outgoing mayor, was unfortunate, as you've heard, that during her term the COVID pandemic restricted both her engagements and her support for her charities. But I would like to congratulate her on what she has achieved. I'm afraid at this moment in time, I have not swum 100 lengths. I have not run 100 miles. and I haven't walked 100 miles, but we'll have to look towards the end and see what I can achieve. I'm looking forward to coming out of our present lockdown so that I can fully support my charities and other engagements. I'm looking forward to supporting and meeting many of the volunteers and organisations that came forward to help over this pandemic. As many of you know, I'm from Hazelmere, and on almost the first week, we had some 400 volunteers coming forward to help those less fortunate themselves. And I think that's reflected right across Waverley. However, I cannot achieve what I want to do without the help and support of our staff here at Waverley, my fellow councillors, of course the Deputy Mayor, when he's elected, and my Mayoress, Councillor Jackie Keane. So I'm looking forward to my year ahead, and I do hope that I can fulfil those ambitions that both Councillor Nicholson and Councillor Gale glowingly gave me. Thank you both. Thank you. We will now continue with the meeting. So we now come on to the election of the Deputy Mayor. So I'd like to ask for nominations, please, for the Deputy Mayor for the Council 2020 to 2021. Have we a person to nominate, please?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor. I would be happy to nominate John Ward and read out a few words, if I may.
If you would, Councillor Clark, yes, please.
When John asked if I would propose him as our new Deputy Mayor, he advised that I should keep it brief and hopefully find something good to say about him. In that case, I replied, keeping it brief should be relatively easy. But noticing my difficulty and being the helpful type, John provided some shining examples of his good character. But I was unable to determine their veracity, so I decided it would be best not to use them. So in setting out to find out the facts about John Ward, I went online and consulted Wikipedia. It took me quickly back over 500 years to discover that John Ward's first incarnation was in 1485 as Sir John Ward, and who, would you believe, was the mayor of the City of London. Now, in those days, mayors were mostly worshipful men and men of renown. So you may be thinking, so far so good. What a decent fellow this John Ward is turning out to be. However, this first search was deceiving, as I can now reveal that our John may have a dark side that we know nothing about whatsoever. Now, some of you may know John Ward likes a life on the ocean wave and even fancies himself as a bit of a sailor. So if we now move forward through Wikipedia a few hundred years to 1607, John Ward surfaces again, but this time as the most infamous and successful buccaneer in the whole of the Mediterranean. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Captain John Ward. This Captain John Ward is in fact the pirate that Captain Jack Sparrow of the Pirates of the Caribbean fame is based upon. And it was reported at the time that Captain John Ward said, "Reports of any loose cannons amongst my crew have been greatly exaggerated by the opposing ship's boarding party." However, I can report to Council that Captain John Ward did not simply go down with his ship, nor did he sink without trace. His redemption was to take another 80 years, returning to his most eminent role, that of the Mayor of the City of London. But this time, as well as that, going one step further and also becoming a founding governor of the Bank of England. But on reflection, I have found the latest incarnation of John Ward to be the best one. A courteous, dedicated and hard-working councillor who successfully led an administration made up of 4 different political groups during one of the most difficult periods in local government's history. Now, some members of our council may not always agree with what John says, nor what John does, but they cannot fault the man. All of us must surely recognise that John is one of the good and true men of Waverley. Ladies and gentlemen and fellow councillors, I'm delighted to propose John Ward, a reformed pirate, as Deputy Mayor of this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we a seconder, please?
You do indeed have a seconder, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Davison. Would you like to make a statement?
Well, I think that Councillor Clark has pretty well said all that it needs to be said, and in line with John Ward's own direction, I should like to keep it very brief and conclude by saying that I have absolutely no hesitation, and it gives me great pleasure in seconding John as our Deputy Mayor. He is, in my mind, a very good egg.
Thank you, Councillor Davison. Are there any other nominations? I hear none, so therefore there are no other nominations. I thereby declare Councillor John Ward as Deputy Mayor of Waverley for 2021-2022. I'll now ask Councillor Ward to read out the declaration of acceptance of office.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, John Ward, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor of the Borough of Waverley, hereby declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code as to the conduct which is expected of members of Waverley Borough Council in the performance of my functions in that office. You will not get a speech from me, but may I say thank you to everybody for electing me to this office, and it would not be right not to say thank you to the members of my executive for a truly magnificent gift. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'll now ask Mrs. Gillian Ward to present the new Deputy Mayor with the chain of office. Thank you. And now, Mr. Deputy Mayor, would you like to present Mrs. Ward with the Deputy Mayoress's badge, please?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Now we come to the vote of thanks to retiring Mayor, which is going to be moved by Councillor John Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's going to give me great pleasure to propose this because I was also Councillor Penny's proposer when she assumed this office. Having two Councillor Dr. Marriott is quite confusing. So for the record, I will call her by Penny because otherwise Councillor Marriott is reflected glory on her husband. I knew when I proposed her, she had the experience, presence and good humour to perform the role well. especially in chairing meetings and representing the council to the outside world. Little did I know, and nothing could have prepared us for the outside world being effectively shut off from us by such an awful pandemic. This has been a unique year in our lifetimes, and although Penny sometimes describes herself as a virtual mayor, whilst our meetings have been held by virtual means, she has herself by no means been virtual. I almost said virtuous there, but I got told off. A year or so, and it seems like a lifetime ago, if one had said Zoom, those listening would have immediately thought of a fast-moving car. But now one thinks of staring at a flickering screen with crackly sound and constant repetition of that now familiar buzzword, unmute, unmute. It takes a strong character to grasp the new and unwelcome way of working and chairing council and making a success of it. From my experience of remotely chairing executive meetings of just 9 others, I can only get a glimpse of what it must be trying to keep order when there are about 60 participants. But Penny quickly learned the new skills required and has risen superbly to the challenge. So well done. It's been a cause of great sorrow to Penny that she has not been able to get out and about to meet people and also to raise money for her charities. However, perhaps taking the idea from having presided over our first 3-part council meeting stretching over 2 months, she has decided to become a triathlete by taking on walking, swimming and cycling challenge over the last 2 months of her period in office. I trust we will all support her and help her with her charitable works. Electing Penny as mayor was a good choice, as her kindness, patience and good humour was well suited to the mayoral role, and it has proved as she has helped us through the most tumultuous period of the council's existence. While she is today relinquishing the mayoral chain and the responsibilities that go with it, I am sure that an alternative avenue for her talents will unfold shortly. I am therefore delighted to propose this formal vote of thanks. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. May I have a seconder, please?
Please to second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Floreszewski. Would you like to make a statement?
Yes, please. Thank you, everyone. I have the honour of seconding this vote of thanks this evening, and in doing so, I think it allows us some reflection. Members, we of course sat here in a mostly virtual way a year ago for the election of Councillor Penny Marius as Mayor, with only a part realisation of really what was to come. And Madam Mayor, I know from your words tonight, but also recently, that you may have felt somewhat disappointed in having been limited by this pandemic in terms of the things that ordinary mayors like to do during their terms. And I know that's something that the mayors of our local towns and parishes have also felt too. But this has not been the season for ordinary, and this period has actually meant that you've had to actually be so much more than an ordinary mayor, and you've risen to the occasion splendidly. You've brought your compassion, your kindness, and your innate sense of inclusivity to the role of mayor in everything that you've done. You've spoken out on matters of social and cultural injustice. You've sought to give voice to the voiceless, and you've sought to maximise inclusion and diversity. And as we've heard tonight, you've gone to Herculean efforts to support your mayoral charities. And I know all of us have enjoyed hearing about your exploits over the last few weeks, and in particular via your blog. And I do think at this point, chairing council sessions should actually be petitioned for consideration as an Olympic sport based on the last few months. Now, without shifting to another part of the agenda entirely, like Councillor Ward, I am quite convinced that there is a proper place to put that drive and that kindness and that focus upon equality, diversity and inclusion to excellent use on behalf of the residents of Waverley, and to carry on the work that you have started as Mayor in perhaps an even more direct way. But for now, I have the honour of commending this vote to Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Floreszewski. Are there any other speakers that wish to speak? I have Councillor Floreszewski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and many congratulations. Can I just say, Penny, You have had a very strange year. It's been a very difficult year. Enjoy your rest. You've been gracious and dignified, and I wish you all the success for the future. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Floreszewski. I cannot see any other hands. So is that agreed?
Very much so.
Agreed.
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 Thank you all. Now, before I conclude this item, I will ask Councillor Keane, as the Mayoress, to present Councillor Marriott with the past Mayor's badge and a gift to mark her year as Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Keane.
Do I say something? One for you. Can I just say thank you very much for these badges, and Peter's very pleased to have got one too. I will open the present later. Thank you very much.
Equality rules. So on to the agenda on item number 6, declarations of interest. Can I ask Robin Taylor if there have been any declarations prior to the meeting?
None received in advance, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Are there any declarations by members? Any member wish to have a declaration? I can't see any hands. Thank you. I now have item 7, which is the new Mayor's announcements. And I will keep this brief, I promise you. First of all, I start off by saying that I've not yet nominated my charities, but will be confirming them in the near future. The main reason that I haven't nominated my charities yet is because, of course, as Deputy Mayor, I'm afraid with the COVID, I was unable to get across the borough. So I wanted to wait until I got here to have a look at some charitable foundations and which ones I should select. I have 2 in mind, but I have a further one that I would like. I would say that many councillors are critical of the time that full council meetings have taken. Please, I would ask that we all avoid repetition and, where we can, deviation at all these council meetings without actually curtailing our views and freedom of speech. Finally, I have asked the Reverend Chris Besant from Haslemere at St Bartholomew's Church at Haslemere to lead us in prayers at our coming council meetings. Thank you. So we now come on to item 8, election of leader. Following the election of Councillor Ward as Deputy Mayor for 2021-22, I must now call for nominations for the leader of the council for the period 2021 to 2023. Have I a nomination, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased to nominate Councillor Paul Follows. And would you like me to speak now?
Have I a seconder first, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations on your appointment. I'm pleased to second the nomination.
Thank you, Councillor MacLeod. So, Councillor Rivers, would you like to say something?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to say how very pleased I am to be able to speak in favour of Councillor Paul Follows for leader of Waverley Borough Council. I'm quite tall at 5 foot 10 inches, but Paul is someone I look up to. And ever since he was first elected, he has made a dramatic difference to the running of this council. He is both very well known and well respected for his diligence and for his dedication. John Ward has led this council with careful consideration and with charm and with colourful ties. Paul follows with a little f this time, with vision, with verve and with veracity. This council is indeed fortunate to have such people ready to step up as leaders and to give their time and their talents so freely for the benefit of the borough. So it is my very great honour to nominate Councillor Paul Follows as leader for the next years 2021 to 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rivers. Are there any other nominations for the leader? Councillor MacLeod, did you wish to add to anything that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the tradition of these events, Councillor Paul has asked me to make a short speech. And I think we all understand the reason for this. As we all know, Paul is a rather shy, retiring sort of person who'd be easily embarrassed by a long eulogy about his good qualities. But I'm going to do my best to embarrass him by telling you all what a good person he is and what a good leader he'll become. I first met Paul in about 2015-16 at an event that's held regularly in Godalming, Compass Group, which is a group of centre, left and middle ground people who meet regularly together, some Labour Party people, some Lib Dems, some Greens and some independents like myself. I was introduced to it by David Beeman, another independent town councillor at the time. And I learned there that Paul had actually moved from the Labour Party to the Lib Dem Party. And he's since had a fairly spectacular rise in the Lib Dem Party. He's now actually the leader of Godalming Town Council, where a Lib Dem council. He became the deputy leader at Waverley, and as has been said already, played a very major part in pulling together what we call the Rainbow Alliance, which we're all very pleased with. Not everybody in the council will be pleased, but those who are part of it are very pleased with it. And Paul's played a major part in that. And he also stood as a Lib Dem candidate for MP against my good friend Jeremy Hunt. And just to show how collegiate we all are, we're all working together on the Farnham infrastructure project. Jeremy Hunt, Paul's very much part of it and very supportive of it. And it's very much a cross-party thing. So that shows that this cross-party sort of thing can work very well. And hopefully something similar might evolve at Surrey County Council, and where Paul is also standing, as myself and a few others. So just to finish, I can thoroughly recommend Paul as leader of Waverley Council, and I very much look working with him and for him, and I know he'll make a great success of the role. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor MacLeod. Now, I believe, Councillor Potts, you had your hand raised.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Yes, indeed, I did. Can I start by congratulating both yourself and Councillor Ward on your new appointments as Mayor and Deputy Mayor of Waverley, respectively, and also thank Councillor Marriott for all her hard work and especially chairing those exceptionally long meetings, which I know have been more challenging than all the other challenges she's been doing for her charity. If I may ask, Mr. Mayor, I would respectfully ask if we could please have a recorded vote for this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Potts. Mr. Taylor, is that okay?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I didn't hear what you said there.
Yes, is that okay to have a recorded vote?
Yes, if there are sufficient members supporting it, of course I can undertake a recorded vote.
Thank you. We need, I think it's 5 members to support. Can I see 5 members to support that recorded vote, please?
Yeah, I'm happy to support Councillor Goodridge.
Yeah, I've got 5. Okay, we have 5 now, so we will have a recorded vote. There is, of course, only one nomination. That's for Councillor Follows. So I'll now hand over to Robin to take that recorded vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll do that now. Councillors, when I call your name, please confirm whether you wish to vote for, vote against, or to abstain. Councillor Brian Adams.
Abstain.
Christine Baker,
4.
David Beeman,
Definitely 4.
Roger Blishan,
4.
Peter Clark,
4.
Carol Coburn,
Abstain.
Richard Cole,
4.
Steve Cosser,
Abstain.
Martin Darcy,
4.
Jerome Davidson,
4.
Kevin Denis,
Abstain.
Simon Deere,
Abstain.
Sally Dixon,
4.
Brian Edmonds,
4.
Patricia Ellis,
Abstain.
Jan Floyd Douglas,
Abstain.
Paul Follows,
4.
Mary Floreszewski,
Abstain.
Maxine Gale,
4.
Michael Goodridge,
Abstain.
John Gray,
Abstain.
Joan Hegan,
4.
Val Henry,
Abstain.
George Hess,
4.
Chris Howard,
Abstain.
Daniel Hunt,
4.
Jerry Hyman,
4.
Peter Isherwood, Councillor Isherwood,
I think we've lost him off the meeting.
okay. Anna James,
Abstain.
Jackie Keane, Councillor Keane,
Sorry, 4.
Robert Knowles, Councillor Knowles,
I can't see Councillor Knowles in the meeting anymore.
thank you, Fiona, Andy MacLeod,
4.
Penny Marriott,
4.
Peter Marriott,
4.
Michaela Martin,
4.
Peter Martin,
Abstain.
Mark Merriweather,
4.
Kika Miralles,
4.
Stephen Mulliner,
Abstain.
John Neal,
4.
Peter Nicholson,
4.
Nick Palmer,
4.
Julia Potts,
Abstain.
Ruth Reid,
4.
Paul Rivers,
4.
Penny Rivers,
4.
John Rubini,
4.
Anne-Marie Rosamond,
100% 4.
Trevor Sadler,
Abstain.
Richard Seaborn,
Abstain.
Liz Townsend,
A delighted 4 from me.
John Ward,
4.
Michaela Wicks,
4, definitely.
Steve Williams,
4.
George Wilson.
4.
Can I just check whether either Peter Isherwood or Robert Knowles are back with us and able to record their vote? If not, then, Mr. Mayor, we have 35 votes in favour, no votes against, and 18 abstentions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Therefore, I declare Councillor Paul Follows is the leader of the council for 2021-2023. Thank you. So item number 9, leaders announcement. So I call on Councillor Follows as the new elected leader, please, to make any announcements regarding the new executive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if I may take this opportunity to offer my congratulations on your elevation to the mayoralty before I begin. And I would also like to thank Councillor Rivers and MacLeod for their kind words and for the support of members. I promise I won't keep this too long on this first occasion, but I would like to take this opportunity in my first leader's announcements to say thank you to the outgoing leader, Councillor John Ward, who has led this council since 2019 and through this pandemic. To repeat something I said earlier at our session today, my father, who's a retired soldier, always told me that reliable men of honour who were true to their word are a sadly diminishing quantity in the universe. But clearly some do remain, and it's been an honour to serve as your deputy, and on behalf of the executive and all of the members of this administration, thank you very much, and look forward to working with you in your new role as deputy mayor and your continued role as leader of the Farnham Residents Group. However, we now commence the second leg of this 4-year term and recommit ourselves to post-COVID recovery, tackling the climate emergency, providing quality and sustainable services to our residents, and to the engagement with residents and communities that has become our hallmark. In recognition of the continuity of this multi-party administration, I'm pleased to confirm that Councillors MacLeod and Martin of the Farnham Residents, Councillors Rosamond, Merriweather and Townsend of the Liberal Democrats, Councillor Williams of the Green Party and Councillor Palmer of the Labour Party will continue to serve as the executive members in their current roles. I'm also pleased to announce that the vacant Farnham resident seat on the executive will be occupied by Councillor Penny Marriott, and I welcome her warmly to the executive. Her remit will encompass many of the themes of her mayoralty. And finally, that Councillor Peter Clark of the Farnham Residents is appointed Deputy Leader of the Council in addition to his current portfolio. Full updates from the portfolio holders will resume at the next formal sessions of Council and Executive as per the policy of this administration. Once again, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and that is all from me for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Follows. Item number 10, this is the review of political proportionality of the Council and appointment of members to committees. I will introduce the report. Councillors, the report setting out the political proportionality of the new council has been circulated, along with the annex showing the group leaders' nominations for appointments to committees. There are 3 recommendations. Item 1, to note the political balance of the council. Item 2, to approve the constitution of committees, the allocation of seats, the appointment of members to those seats in accordance with the group's nominations, and the nominations for chairman and vice chairman positions, and to approve the allocation of seats and appointments to Surrey County Council local committees. Do I have a seconder?
I'm pleased to second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I now call for speakers. Have I any speakers on the motion, please? I cannot see any hands raised. Is there any council member who wishes to vote against or abstain? I can't hear anybody wishing to abstain or vote against. Therefore, the motion is carried. Thank you. So we now move on to item 11, which is the Affordable Housing SPD. Members, consideration of the Affordable Housing SPD began at the meeting on the 22nd of March. Councillor Mulliner proposed an amendment which revised the wording of paragraphs 93 and 94, and that amendment was seconded by Councillor Floreszewski. As planning and legal officers had not had an opportunity to consider whether the proposed wording was a feasible alternative, Council agreed to defer further discussion until planning and legal officers had an opportunity to review and comment on the amendment. You will see in your agenda pack on pages 17 and 18 a schedule that shows the original wording of paragraphs 93 and 94. Councillor Mulliner's proposed wording submitted under his amendment, and the final column, officers' comments, and proposed alternative wording to these paragraphs. I would like to resume the debate on the affordable housing SPD by asking Councillor Mulliner whether he wishes to withdraw his proposed wording in favour of the alternative wording put forward by officers, or whether he wishes to continue to vote on his original amendment. Councillor Mulliner.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, can I just say we can hardly hear you?
I apologise, not quite sure. I've got the microphone here and it is on. Did you want me to read that again, Councillor Coburn?
No, Mr. Mayor, it was just that people have been putting it in the chat and I certainly couldn't hear you. You were sort of coming and going a little bit. It was very, very difficult, but I'm sure we've got the gist of it. But if you could, I don't know what you can do to improve it. It certainly is very difficult to hear you.
Okay, I'm using my normal, really raised voice, so I will try my best to project. However, as you're aware with these microphones, they are...
No, Mr. Mayor, it's not your voice, it's the electronics. It's certainly not your voice.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, I'll continue where I left off. So, Councillor Mulliner, would you like to speak, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and may I congratulate you on your appointment as Mayor for the next year. Yes, I fear you are being slightly cursed by modern technology because you've got an interesting waving effect, certainly in my particular system. I've had a look at the proposed alternative wording by the officers. It's a step in the right direction. I haven't been able to establish whether they have appreciated that there are two possibilities. One that is covered by this wording is where the applicant makes it clear from the start that they wish to avoid their affordable housing obligations on a suitable site. And the new wording is certainly better than the old wording for dealing with that particular situation. The other situation, which sadly is not unknown, is where applicants obtain planning permission, but later and agree to provide the full affordable housing contribution that the site is appropriate for, such as 30% on a greenfield site, and then later come back to the council seeking a variation under section 73 of the TCPA to relieve themselves of all or part of that obligation. And it's not clear to me that this wording actually achieves that. But nonetheless, in the spirit of recognising the officers have seen the point, have established, and I entirely agree with them, that where we are giving developers or applicants a form of redress or relief from their affordable housing obligations, then we are entitled as a quid pro quo to seek their agreement to enter into a second viability assessment at completion if it should turn out that market changes have meant that sale prices have accelerated beyond any increased costs, with the result that the development is significantly more viable or profitable than it was thought to be when we granted the relief in the first place. So I'm pleased that that is now firmly established. Let's say this wording is not perfect, and I hope very much in July we'll be able to improve it again. But given the recent marathons that we have endured for council meetings, I'm more than happy to withdraw my amendment and to support this SPD as very much a step in the right direction. I entirely endorse what it's trying to do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mulliner. In which case, I would like to call for a seconder. Happy a seconder to withdraw it. This is for the officer's amendment, the officer's wording. We need to make sure we understand that and pass it. Councillor Wilson.
Councillor Wilson.
Councillor Wilson. In the absence of Councillor Wilson, then Councillor...
You're still muted, Councillor Wilson.
There you are.
Wrong button. Sorry, I'm quite happy to thank Councillor Mulliner for bringing the matter to our attention and to second his withdrawal. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Seaborn.
If that withdrawal's complete, I'd like to speak to the general SPD, if that's in order. I'll start by thanking you, Mr. Mayor, and let me add up my congratulations to your appointment this evening. It's really good to see that the Affordable Housing SPD has finally come in front of us for approval after the long journey that it's been on. Indeed, the Housing ONS Committee was told in February 2019 that the document was scheduled to come in front of Council for approval in October of that year. After some of the comments made by Councillor Ward on the scrutiny of this document at last week's Council meeting, I thought it might help reassure members that proper scrutiny has indeed taken place by providing a little history. Councillor Ward claimed that the Housing ONS Committee had failed to carry out adequate scrutiny by not picking up what he described as the fairly basic point made by Councillor Mulliner at the March Council meeting. Well, the Housing ONS Committee first reviewed the draft SPD in January 2019 in connection with the Stigma in Housing Task and Finish group, of which Councillor Follows might recall he was involved in. And the document was brought to the full Housing ONS Committee in February 2019, a meeting which was chaired by Councillor Ward. In June 2019, all councillors were issued with a formal invitation to participate in the public consultation. And then in early January this year, following the last public consultation, the planning policy team asked that members of the Housing ONS endorse the SPD in a round of emails because it had already been considered by the committee. I provided 3 pages of largely minor points, most of which I'm pleased to say have been addressed, although I did point out that there is no document control, and sadly that's still the case. But the point of this recap is that the item that Councillor Mulliner challenged was picked up due to his legal background and experience in the property sector. Councillors Ward and Follows have had the opportunity to scrutinise this SPD, and it falls within the remit of Councillor Rosamond. So for Councillor Ward to have said that the Housing ONS alone was responsible for failing to adequately scrutinise the document was not particularly well thought through or particularly correct. In my view, members can be assured that this is a well scrutinised document and that changes have been made to it as a result of scrutiny and public consultation. The Affordable Housing SPD is a fundamentally good piece of work. It's even better now for Councillor Mulliner's input and the changes made by officers in response to his input. It's a document that is needed and overdue, and I will be very happy to support its adoption this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Before I ask Councillor MacLeod to sum up, are there any other speakers on this amended motion? In that case, Councillor Andy MacLeod, can I call on you to sum up, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to thank Councillor Mulliner for having withdrawn his amendment and acknowledge that his intention was to improve the document. And I'm pleased that he agrees that the revised wording that the officers have come up with does actually do that. So with that in mind, I would like to recommend to the Council that it now adopts the Affordable Housing SPD and also adopts the revised wording to paragraphs 93 and 94 as recommended by the officers. So I hope I have a seconder for that recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Pleased to second, Mr. Mayor.
We are debating, of course, the amendation that the officers put forward. Have I any more speakers? Because at the moment I have nobody to speak. In that case, if I could then ask for a vote on the recommendation. I've had no call for any recorded vote, so therefore, can I have an agreement that we accept the amendation as amended by the officers, please?
Agreed.
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 Agreed. Agreed. Agreed.
So if I have no other speakers for the main report, can I please now ask to go on to agree the main report with that emendation included within it? All those in favour?
Agreed.
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 In that case, then the Affordable Housing Supplementary Planning document is approved. Thank you all very much for the evening. There are in fact no other items to consider. So thank you all for an enjoyable evening, and I will see you at the next full council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you,
Good evening,
Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.